slave to our freedom.
The young brother was downright eloquent with his misinformed soliloquy. He said using nigger affectionately among ourselves takes the negativity out of the word, but that no other race of people can use it ever but us. And you thought that kind of reasoning existed only in the Twilight Zone. Then again, the Twilight Zone was a TV show, and the plight of Black America is tragic reality. Somebody said the revolution would not be televised. They didn't say anything about our devolution, which is well documented.
Islam. Inconstancy is powerful in the heart of man. Intemperance sweat it whither it will. Despair in growth is much of it, and fear proclaimeth. Behold, I sit unraveled therein, but vanity is beyond them all. Weep not therefore at the calamities of the human state. Rather laugh at his follies. In the hands of a man addicted to vanity, life then is but a shadow of a dream. The hero, the most renowned of human character, what is he but the bubble of his weakness? The public is unstable and ungrateful. Why should the man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish American prayer, the source from which Moorish Americans draw their strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. First off, I'd like to rise, circling the camel's hump, which symbolizes endurance, giving praise to Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible, the one who stretches forth the heaven with his hands, who have described with his fingers the courses of the stars, who set it bounds to the ocean that it cannot pass, and said to the stormy winds, be still. I'd like to give honor to the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star, talking about none other than our holy and illustrious prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I'd like to give honor to Prophet Noble Drew Ali because it was he who reached down into the watery grave of hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms, and set you and me back upright on our feet again. I'd like to give honor to the forerunner to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I'd like to give honor to Marcus Mosiah Garvey because this brother had to have pure thoughts in order to pave the way for love. I'd like to give honor to all literature pertaining to Islam in the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'd like to give honor to our two flags, just solely and just so quinted, the right of soil and the right of blood. And honor to our charter, honor to all sheiks and sheikahs, honor to all members of the distinctive, and last but not least, I'd like to give a special honor to Temple 2 here in Portland, Oregon, for their wills and their ways. Also to the Portland media for giving the Moorish voice an hour each week to come on here to talk about Noble Drew Ali and his mission to the sons of men. At this time, I'd like to read from the Moorish Holy Quran, the Book of the Seven Seals, the book that has the 18 years that's missing in your Holy Bible, as it talks about Jesus when he was 12 years old, and you hear nothing of him again until he's 30 years old. And in this book, the Book of the Seven Seals is talked about in Revelations, tell you what Jesus was doing during those 18 years. At this time, I'd like to read from chapter 4 of the Moorish Holy Quran. And after I read it, I'm going to explain to you why I'm reading this chapter. Now, I'm reading from chapter 4. And in reading from chapter 4, I'm going to read from verses 19, 20, and 21. And it's read on this wise. Verse 19. In water, wash the bodies of the people who would turn away from sin and strive for purity in life. 20. This rite of cleanliness is a preparation rite, and they who thus are clean conspire the temple of purity. And you shall say, you sons of Israel, hear, reform and wash. Become the sons of purity, and you shall be forgotten. Thus we just had a reading of the Moorish Holy Quran, divinely prepared by our holy prophet Noble Drew Ali for our earthly and our divine salvation. I want to start out today because I got a lot of stuff to talk about because I haven't been here for the last couple of weeks. I've been in Washington, D.C. and Maryland. And I want to talk to my Portland listening audience about some of the things that transpired in my visit. But I want to talk about this chapter first. And the reason why I want to talk about this chapter is because a few months back, we had a few brothers and sisters that proclaimed their nationality. And when they claimed their nationality, I washed their feet. And I washed their feet because Noble Drew Ali talked about it. Now, you might have some people when you proclaim your nationality, they just give you your card. But every subordinate temple under the Grand Major Temple is the form of the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their laws and customs as long as they're in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. So, through all biblical scriptures, you always hear one talk about baptism. In all religions, they have a form of baptism. So when I washed these brothers' feet, when they was proclaiming their nationality, somebody said something about that on social media. And they said something about that through social media because they hadn't seen this chapter here. They haven't seen this chapter when symbolic of the cleaning of the soul. Because when you join the Moorish Science Temple, now I have right here, we'll talk about the voice of the prophet, and he said, if you have race pride. And he talked about divine and national movement. So we just don't have a national side, we have a national and divine side. So I'm going to have to talk about all of this right now. When I joined the temple, my feet was washed. When I joined the temple, the brother that gave us this curriculum about the multitudes about cleaning yourself sat right there with the prophet. And you have a lot of brothers and sisters that might have been there with the prophet, but their understanding wasn't the same. Because the gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah. And he appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seemeth good unto himself. And the reason why I'm reading this, because the brother that commented on me washing the brother's feet, symbolic of the cleaning of the soul, right after that, I seen him in the gambling joint. And he was in the gambling joint gambling, so I knew that he didn't get his feet washed, because when you wash your feet, you're saying that your earth tasks are done. But I got the blessing. When I went to D.C., I went to Temple 71. And when I went to 71, I seen the brother on post. And I say, brother, if you had something to say to me about me washing the people's feet, why you didn't call me and tell me that? That's what men do. Because when you see a gorilla in the forest, if a gorilla see another gorilla, he gonna try to turn away from him. Because he say, man, that dude just like me. He's a gorilla. So when dudes do things that's diametrically opposed to manhood, then I look at him like that. So I approached him. And when I approached him, he humbled himself, but then he started talking about Jones-Bey and that grand body. It was hard for me to understand it because he's on post. You moved Rashida Hill because she was working with other people in unity, but you on the post and you say you and the brother that's the Grand Sheik up there in Philadelphia was diametrically opposed to Jones-Bey. I don't understand that. I don't understand it because not only are you throwing dirt at me, you throwing dirt at the brother supposed to be your national Grand Sheik. Just know, I knew this brother a long time ago. I knew him when he was with Bugs Bay. You know, and I knew her because when I first come out of Vietnam, she was with the revolutionary movement. So I have a respect and an honor. That's why I had to go there. And the reason why I had to go to 71, there's a brother named Sharif Bey. Sharif Bey is a part of the Ali's men. And one of the things that, I'm going to talk about him, I love this brother. I'm going to talk about Tahaka Bey in a minute. But one of the things Tahaka Bey said, about 7 things he said that touched me. But one of the things he said that touched me was about Sharif Hill. For many years, he tried to get with the grand body of C. Crooksman Bey, and he finally did it. So over here, I'm looking at a word. And I'm going to give you a stroll, Sharif Bey. And the stroll that I'm going to give you is a stroll of prudence. Because you know all through our literature, there's certain strolls that's handed to certain brothers and sisters when they create and do a particular work. So now there's a stroll of prudence. And this prudence deals with common sense and good judgment. And what I mean by that is because we was talking about your elders. And when you begin to talk about that grand body and their elders, they buried the prophet's wife. They buried the Cook Bay family. And you know, when you go to the convention building on that side of Chicago, it was Brother Arloville that paid and purchased that building. And right next to that building, there was a star and a crescent in the window. And that building belonged to one of the Cook Bay brothers who was with the prophet. And when you needed a lot of information, you could get it from them. My instructor, one of them was Sister Christina Price Bey. And what I give Sister Christina Price Bey honor for is because if it wasn't for her, nobody today would be going to visit Prophet Noble Drew Ali's grave site. Because it was Sister Christina Price Bey who sent Moors there. They said, we can't find them. She sent them back again, and they found the prophet's grave site. So everybody want to talk about who is the leader and who in charge. And you wasn't in charge when you let the prophet's grave site go onto the ground. So the position that I'm taking there in reference to that, because when you talk about Christianity, you talk about the Baptists, you talk about the Protestants, you talk about the Methodists, you talk about the Presbyterian, etc. When you talk about the Muslims, you talk about the Shiites, you talk about the Sunnis, you talk about the Ahmadiyya, you talk about the Hanafi, and etc. And what I see now, the same thing has transpired in the Moorish Science Temple of America. You see all these different grand bodies, and now that don't relate to the same thing that Jesus said, because Drew Ali said, but one prophet, one temple, and one nation. So I had to go up 71 because I wanted to look in Jones-Bey's face. I wanted to look in his eyes. I wanted to look in Chase Hill's eyes. Brother Kennard Bey, I wanted to look in his eyes. And the reason why I wanted to do that, because for the last 25 years, that particular grand body was coming into the institutions to teach brothers and sisters the truth about themselves and how to hold on to Allah's unchanging hand. And after everybody got out, those brothers dying, they're old and everything else now. But when everybody else got out, they went somewhere else. They went somewhere else because they know they couldn't have went there with that foolishness. You can go anywhere with foolishness, but those brothers' names that I just called is not going for no foolishness. Lynch-Bey is a bigger brother. His younger brother than me used to move, and I knew his attributes and some of his characteristics. So they're not going for anything. So I had to go there because I knew that I can get a great spiritual lesson from them. And when I went there, I got that. Now, another reason why I went there, because check your record. Everybody that you see today, they call themselves sheiks, 99% of them came through that grand body. They came through there and they was taught through them. Now you leave there and go somewhere else. And when you go somewhere else, what do? You throw dirt at that grand body. Now I say that because I know them brothers. I know them sisters. I seen Sister Lynch-Bey up there. She was the sister. Her and her husband was the first ones that have formed Temple 71. See? And they're still there holding up. Now, if I was a member of Temple 71 and they took me through some kind of upper room, and if they took me there and then later on I get tired and want to leave and go somewhere else, I committed treason. Because if something ain't right, then I have an obligation to get it right. So the Moorish Science Temple of America is the oldest Islamic movement in North America. We get ready to have a Marcus Garvey celebration. And I hear a lot of people. Now they're saying that Marcus Garvey was the forerunner to their leader. But you got to understand, this Moorish Holy Quran was copyrighted, Drew Ali gave it to us in 1927. In 1927, there was nobody else here in America teaching religion. The only person that was from an Islamic perspective. And when Drew Ali came and went to Woodrow Wilson, he got the mandate to teach you about Prophet Muhammad, about Jesus, about Buddha, about Confucius. Before then, you had not that kind of avenue. So that's why I went up there, because I wanted to see them brothers, because I know how they feel. They're laboring. They done went there, and I'm talking to everybody. And when you leave there, you got some bad stuff to say about that temple. Now, if anybody listens to the sound of my voice, I got it written down. We have a lesson. It says, where are you going, Satan? It says, I'm going to and fro the earth, seeking who I may devour. And when you tell somebody about somebody else, and they really don't have that knowledge themselves, and you feeding them that filth, that's who you are. You the devil in the skies, all powerful, yet full of jealousy, hate, and lust. Now, Drew Ali tell us in one of our questions, he said, who made the devil? And the answer is Elohim. And he said, who is Elohim? It said Elohim is the 7 creative spirits that created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. So now if Elohim made the devil, how did Elohim make the devil? Drew Ali tell us that thought is the cause of it all. So he had to do it in thought. So if you unmake the devil, you have to unmake the devil in thought. But you made the devil by thinking devilish thoughts, and you unmake the devil by stop thinking devilish thoughts. So the devil, let me show you some of his attributes. He's the ruler of hell. You know when everybody say you going to hell, they always say the devil. They don't say Lucifer. They don't even say Satan. They say you going to hell, you going in there with the devil. And the devil is one that always try to tab something. You know, when everything is going beautiful in your household, husband and wife. Sometimes you might have that devil attribute when you're always trying to tab something. The house is going well, and you create a condition. That is the devil, always trying not to build, but try to tab something. It also says that a devil is one that's always in error and thinking that they are in the truth. So when you begin to talk about truth and error, you're talking about a reverse. So when we begin to talk in the more scientific, we was taught that the devil have horns. And Drew Ali told us that it's not in flesh to think. And it's not in bones to reason. And man is not the body nor the soul. He is a spirit and a part of Allah. So I'm going to talk to you today about this holy stuff. Because I was on it right now talking about baptism. And I was given the name. Everybody always talk about their names. I hear a lot of people. I'm Swift Angel number 8. I'm Swift Angel number 9. I was given the name. Even though everybody was given the name by Princeton, he called me Holy Angel. So he called me Holy Angel, so I'm going to teach some holy gospel. When you join the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Science Temple of America, we have what is known as an inner circle. And in order to get in the inner circle, you got to be able to give these things up of the world and move on over to a greater height. Now, I'm going to come back to this, but I want to talk about this brother, Lynch-Bey. Man, I really honor this brother, and I love him. I wish so much that him and Jones Bay could sit down. That's far-fetched. But if he sat down with that brother, Allah would want that. The prophet will want that. Because I don't go too many places, but I went to him because of the great work that he's doing. I even told him whatever business that he may open up in Baltimore, we'll open up the same business up here in Portland, Oregon. That's where you talk about unity. That's where you talk about strength. And you know why I went to him? Because I've never heard him talk about more than one prophet. I heard him talk about one prophet and one forerunner. I didn't hear a lot of crazy stuff that this brother was teaching, and he on point. So the one thing I'm waiting on, because he lives in Baltimore, I'm waiting on him to talk about that UCC. I haven't heard that yet. And I want him to do it because he's in Baltimore. I don't want to have to do it and I'm not in Baltimore. You know, because when I say something to somebody, I want to be right there, just like I said something to that brother. But he switched up and said, man, the grand body of C. Kirkabay ain't the right one. And he's a sheik in that chamber. Don't impress me, because oftentimes I talk to Frazier Bey. And Frazier Bey and I was talking. Because we was friends years ago. And Frazier Bey said, you know what, Lynch-Bey? He said, all those that left this grand body and went to another grand body, that's where they're supposed to be at. They're supposed to be over there anyway. And people talking about maybe certain families are not living according to what the prophets say. We all did that. When you grew up in the church. You grew up in the church, and when you grew up in the church, you weren't always living according to the fruits of the Spirit. But you was in the church and you always believed in God. I just like a lot of brothers in certain organizations who uncles or grandfathers raised them up. One thing you don't have to hear them say, I'm going to step back and I'm not going nowhere. And let me tell you something else before I get to Lynch-Bey, something I did real good. I took Brother Albert Hill, I took Brother McKirkland Bay, and I took Brother Sheik McQueen. I took Brother McQueen here, took them all by 762 West Baltimore Street because they used to send their finance there back in the day. Brother McQueen here that I spent some time with, we used to be together back in the 70s. This was before the grand body of C. Kirkland Bay came into the institutions. So when he went to Lawton and met them brothers there, and said, I never heard about Loveville, he wasn't derogatory. It was the truth. Because at that time, I didn't know anything about the grand body of Secret. I knew about them because we come from there. We came from there because the brothers that I know that come out of that city was trying to get the teachings of the prophet, and they said, we're not going to take the teachings of the prophet into the convicts. And I can agree with that now. When you look around, people always talking about Weaver Bay, talking about Warner Bay. They always call these different names out, but these are they that came in them places to aid and assist you. But when you get out, you go somewhere else. Okay, Lynch-Bey, well, why you ain't over there with C. Kirkland Bay then? Well, it ain't hard because our instructions from the chamber with Price Bay and German Bay say when you begin to talk about the less of the two evils, you got to go over there with C. Kirkland Bay. And that's where we went. So now, I come home from the preparation centers. And before I come home, I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time, I've just called two of them names, with V. Jones Bay out of 78 in Baltimore, and brother the Grand Mufti. And man, they used to come in. And when they used to come in to see us every week, I had to hit them off with some paper. And man, the following week, brother Grand Mufti and Brother V. Jones Bay said, man, we can't take the money no more. He said, the only way we could take this money is to take it and put it in the treasure. I seen the law working in there. Those other two brothers, they kept on taking that money. And they kept on taking it. And they kept on taking it. And I come home, there was a brother named Lethbridge Bay That's how I met Doreen, that introduced me to the sister out of Detroit. Doreen was close to this brother, Lynch-Bey. And when I came on a Wednesday night at support group, and Chase Hill was working with me and a lot of other brothers. And when I come there, Lynch-Bey come to me, and the first thing they told me, all right, Lynch-Bey, don't come over here and try to run something. I got out the way, Mark, because I've been around too long. I don't need nothing. Right now, I have Sister Hawkins Hill, that's a member of Brother Pray for the Hills Temple. I say, we need your husband or somebody to come up here and be the Grand Sheik. I told Tahaka Bey, we need a Grand Sheik up here because I got something else to do. I can't take that position. So we need a Grand Sheik that's been around a while and that's seasoned, because everybody want to be the head. Everybody want to be the Grand Sheik. But when you begin to talk about Grand Sheik, you're talking about a particular spirit. You know, I say, try the spirit, test the spirit, and see are you from the same spirit. You have to be of that spirit. And this is what's transpired. So we met with Tahaka Bey. We had a good time. Had us on the Moorish World TV, and we had the opportunity to talk about a lot of things. But I wanted to press his hand and look at his spirit. And I seen the same spirit that this brother had. So now, I don't see unity. Because the only unity I see right now is you and God coming in unity, and the way you do that is live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you don't live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, you can't come to God in unity, because the book say, through carnal thoughts and words and deeds, man tore himself away from Allah. He debased himself. So in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we're Muslims. A Muslim is one who submits his will to Allah. You submit your will to Allah by living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And if we are not living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, then we are not Muslims. Drew Ali told us some things. He said you can't even consider yourself a Moor. So if you was a sheik or a sheikess, and you was a part of a particular grand body, and you left, then you got some trouble coming in your hand. Because the prophet already said that he could do more for us in the spirit than in the flesh. And if he could do more for us in the spirit than in the flesh, when you go into the upper room, you know what that is also known as? It's also known as the night of power. You know how when you fast during the month of Ramadan, and they say if you pray at a certain time and you get hooked up in that ether, same thing when you go into the upper room. There's a particular ether that you're taking on of your great forefathers. There's a spirit that you are coming in tune with. But you don't do that but once. It was told to me, say, man, I said, brother, all this stuff coming in these different temples. He said, go where the majority is. And all you need to do is take your dues card. So we have a lot of work to do in the Moorish Science Temple, and people wouldn't believe it that the Moorish Science Temple of America is the oldest Islamic movement in North America. Allah sent Jew Ali. It ain't but one in every area of time. It ain't no two. It ain't no three. It's only one. Whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, Allah will send one with the methodology that's conducive to our growth and development. If Jew Ali came, he said, I brought you everything that it takes to save a nation. Now take it and save yourself. And we ain't doing that. So what we're doing, we're making the prophet suffer. He said, I've suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstanding of what the movement was dedicated to. In our conversations with Brother Tahaka Bey, something else that he said that touched me real deep. He said about Taj. He said the stuff that Taj is teaching, he says conducive. It has its place in the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's your class. But you got to come back under the grand body like we all do and live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. All these brothers, not this UCC stuff. I'm talking about lessons that brother's teaching is lessons that he got from CM-Bey. There's a lot of people that's teaching lessons that come from the prophet, because the prophet had many different lessons. Let me tell you, when the prophet went to those 15 temples, he did not give all the sheiks the same lessons. When he went through those temples, when he smelled cigarette butts there, when he smelled liquor there, and then he go to another temple and see brothers fasting, living according to the love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. Trust me, he gave those sheiks something that he gave another sheik, because there is a chamber within a chamber within a chamber. So now, I got to get myself together. Because right now, my concern is temple number 2. My concern is to make sure that these young brothers and sisters here learn about the prophet so they be able to carry them. And I want to put them with some brothers and some sisters that they will be law-abiding citizens and receive their divine rights. It was asked to me the other day. It said, hey, you said Drew Ali bought something. What did Prophet Muhammad bring? What did everybody, Prophet Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha, Confucius, they all bought the same thing. And what they bought was the spirituality to get you back to God. That's why Muhammad had you praying 5 times a day. He had you praying 5 times a day because by the time you finish one prayer, there's about time for you to pray again, so he ain't got to worry about you committing the sin. Because see, in the Moorish Science Temple, the sheiks was telling us that the Moorish American pray 100 times a day. Because a good word, a kind deed, and helping those in need is a prayer. So if I just reach out to you and assist you, that's a prayer. I don't have to bump my head on no ground. I don't have to do none of that. But I like you to understand this. We always want to go over there and visit everybody else. See, we got a lesson. Say, what is our prophet to us? He said, he's an angel of Allah who was sent to bring us the everlasting gospel of Allah. He didn't say, what is our prophet to them? See, because there was a time when you didn't have nobody going to debate against the Moors and etc. because we had unity. Right now, there is no unity. I have a book here. Sister Franklin Hill, the Moors just bought a box of them. We're going to get McQueen Hill's books next. And on the back of this is Sister Franklin Hill. She lives in Wichita, Kansas. I met her a little while back through Boston Hill. And when I met her, I started learning about her history. So I wanted to get this book for the Moors here. And when you look at Sister Franklin here, she has a white turban on. She don't have a white fez on. She have a white turban on. And she reading why she have a white turban on and not a white fez is because she's not in no Masonic order. If she is, we don't know nothing about it because they had that brother Lynch-Bey up there. I kept giving that brother honor, and then I seen him on social media with a full Masonic thing on. And I was totally disrespectful to the Grand Sheik. I know Jones Bey is not in no Masonic order because Noble Drew Ali told us that he took the covers off of all secret organizations. And when my instructor, Drew Ali, told him to take that Masonic stuff and give it away. But you see all these Moors today. All these Moors is running in the Masonic order because what Drew Ali bought you is not enough. So now you see the white fez that the sister is wearing. Why is that? Because her husband's in the Masons. Her husband's in the Masonic order, and she's in the Eastern Star. When you see a sister wearing a white turban, that has nothing to do, a white fez, that has nothing to do with the Moorish Science Temple of America. In the Moorish Science, unless she's unless you like women, or like men and women, because when you see a fez, you see the dominant force of a man. See, but the brother can't tell his woman not to wear a fez when on a weekday you wear a fez that's tied down 33 1/3, but then on a Friday you will come to the Moorish Science Temple of America with a fez on, talking about spring 360. And that's why we're not in unity, because when you look at the fez and you look at the tassel represents gravity. And Jesus said, draw all men unto you. And how can you draw all men unto you if you don't live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice? Now, let's get back into this thing about this national, because it's in here, and divine. Like I said, it was a brother up here, old dude, just joined the temple. He was with Pleasant Bay, and then when he found Bratton Bay, he was safe, Big Kenny. And Kenny was running around like he's saying something slick, always talking about he's with the national side of the movement. Ain't no such thing as a national side of the movement, because we have 2 flags. We have a national and a national descent. So Drew Ali came to bring us 2 things. And the 2 things that Noble Drew Ali came to bring us was nationality and divine creed. And that was so ironic, because when you begin to talk about mathematics, which comes out of Egypt, it teaches you that 5/5 all day is a whole in mathematics. So they said that we was 3/5 of a man, and I had to agree with it. So when Drew Ali came, the first thing Drew Ali told us too was, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earth land which the Lord thy God Allah has given thee. And when you talk about honoring your father, you talking about the great God Allah. And when you talk about mother, you talking about a Mother Earth, because man derives his name from the earth land. So you're talking about the physical and you're talking about the spiritual. And Drew Ali had to bring us both of them. See, let me share something with you. One of our little brothers, we think that saying that Negro, colored, and black is acceptable or something slick. Neither. Because we had a national name when first brought to these shores in the early part of the 17th century. If so, what was it? It was Moorish. Now, I seen a car today. I seen a Seville, I seen a DeVille, and I seen a Granada. Where they get them names from? Places that we named in Europe. When we went to Spain, they got a Granada, they got a Cordova, they got a Seville, and we Moors named all them places. And what they do today, they drive them around because they're driving you and me around because they know their history. We just don't know ours. We have a national name when first brought to these shores in the early part of the 17th century. When you begin to talk about history, not his story, but when you begin to talk about history, you'll see that Negro, colored, and black was given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. Now, my daughter got married. And when she got married, it was a West African fasana because the brother was from Nigeria. And it was so beautiful because one of the parts of the ceremony was dealing with African culture, dealing with Nigerian luxury. And I like that because Drew Ali told us that we got to take these teachings back to the East and wake up our brothers and sisters. Why is that? Because right now, if you go to Africa, the majority of the brothers and sisters over there, they're Christians. They are Christians. They go to the Christian church. And Drew Ali told us that the foundation of Christianity began in Rome. He said it was the Roman nations that founded the first church, of whom crucified Jesus of Nazareth, for seeking to redeem his people from under the Roman yoke and law. But they take on that concept. We take on that concept. The majority of the brothers and sisters in this government take on that concept. You call yourself Christian. And when you call yourself Christian, what you are doing is crushing your father and your mother. Because before we came to these shores in the early part of the 17th century, what was our religion? What religion? Because Christianity wasn't even focused then. I ain't talking about Christianity because it's for your earthly salvation. Now, how can Christianity be for your earthly salvation but we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which is founded by our forefathers for our earthly and our divine salvation. Say you hit me in my head and you bury me in Vatican Square. And when you bury me in Vatican Square, you take on my name. Truth is walking around in falsehood's clothing. Falsehood is walking around in truth clothing. So now I was at a wedding the other day. And me being at this wedding, my daughter marrying my son-in-law, it was an honor because I seen the royal wedding. Because just before I left Portland, going to D.C., over in Buckingham Palace, they supposed to have a royal wedding. But let me go back into this Buckingham Palace thing. Because where I come from, when you say that you buck something, somebody might try to rob you and you buck the gun. That means you ain't going for it. So they have what is known as Buckingham Palace. And why do they have a Buckingham Palace? Because the European nations bucked ham. They bucked ham so much that James Stewart, the one that you call King James, what he did, he took the genealogy and he made Shem the oldest son. Look at it, the Bible, it's right there. It says Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So now you bucking because Ham is no longer the oldest son. And when you begin to talk about Ham, you're talking about Africa. When you talk about Abraham, Abraham wasn't always Abraham. He first was Abram, and then he became Abraham. So that Ham is like your eel and your bait. That's your reawakening. That's your baptism. That's you being born again. Because that's our forefather. We always talking about Abraham's nephew, and those was a curriculum that we taught. But now, our brothers and our sisters, you don't teach that no more. You might have a brother, you might have a sister, you might have a son, you might have a daughter, and they want to do things that's diametrically opposed, like Adam and Eve and not Adam and Steve, and you accept that. If my daughter, if my sister, if my mother, if my father do things that's opposed, I can't support them. Because Jesus said, if my mother ain't right, she cannot get into the kingdom of heaven. So who is my brother and who is my sister? My brothers and my sisters are the ones that's living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Now, we got to take things on another level because we always say, I want a European realm. I don't either because of what they've done to me. But Jesus taught in India, Africa, and Europe. And when he went there, he raised up Claude and Juliet. I talk about this all the time because I'm so much here in Portland. And when I'm here in Portland, matter of fact, you dealing with what is and not what seemed to be, because even European got a flesh. And their flesh don't think. And their bones don't reason. And Drew Ali said, let that spirit, old man, actuate and direct the flesh. So it is our thinking that direct this flesh, because in the beginning was not the word. In the beginning was the thought. And man thought the word. Now let me look here. Praise Allah. 500 years ago. That's what I was looking for. 500 years ago. The guy Martin Luther. Martin Luther broke away from the Catholic Church. He broke away from the Catholic Church because of homosexuality. He's saying they can't get married. There's a lot of different things. So he broke away from the Catholic Church. And when he broke away from the Catholic Church, because his last name was Luther, he formed his own church. He formed his own church, and people were looking at him so much. Martin Luther King was not born Martin Luther King. You know, he was born something else, but his father and mother renamed him after Martin Luther. Martin Luther put the thesis on the board in Wittenberg, and he stepped away from the Catholic Church. Now, he stepped away from the Catholic Church because there was a lot of things, as I say, that he was opposed to. However, they stole my birthright. They stole my Jesus. They stole my Abraham. They stole Boaz by Ruth. They stole Jesse. And right now, you go to church. Majority of the preachers in the church are Masons. The majority of the women that's in the church are Eastern Star. And the Masons and the Eastern Star curriculum is somewhat different than the curriculum in the church. So now it's hard for me to understand why a Martian American who call yourself some kind of sheik, you will be up in a Masonic order. When Drew Ali said he took the covers off of all secret organizations. Now, what organization was he talking about? When Noble Drew Ali said he took the covers off all secret organizations, was he talking about the Masons? Was he talking about the Illuminati? Who was he talking about? So, Brother Jones-Bey, I told the brother that I seen Brother Jones-Bey, and I wanted to talk to him. I wouldn't go to Jones-Bey and say, Brother Jones-Bey, we need to sit down and talk about unity. I don't have that right. Though none of us have that right. If we were with that grand body of C. Kirkman Bey, and we become a sheik, or a sheik is under that grand body, and we get hooked up in some kind of illusion, or we see something over there that's pleasant to the eye, and lovely to the spell, but they call the full of bitterness and go, we can't tell that brother we want to sit down and talk to him because you left there. You was there. You took a vow to be there, but you left there looking for something else. So I looked at them, brother. They don't care nothing about that because their elders was those that was with the prophet. Nobody else. All these other grand bodies, I got the record. You was somewhere else. How do I know? I was around longer than you. So I was glad to be able to go there and see them brothers. I was glad to go there and take brother McQueen Ill up there because he knew all them brothers and he went through a lot with those brothers. But what did Allah do? Allah opened up the door because we got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of stuff going on in the Moorish Science Temple, and I don't so much agree with it, but a lot of it is me too because I'm growing. But let me tell you this. See, in the Moorish Science Temple, when you have these, there were 7 tests that I seen in the book. And these 7 tests, just say there was hatred and slander. See, when you talk about slander, you got to look up its attributes. When you talk about hatred, you got to look up its attributes. And a lot of times, we think that we are in our higher self, but we're in our lower self. Sometimes we think we're in our lower self, we're in our higher self. And we keep talking about we want unity. Well, if you want unity, go back there where you left from. Go right back there to the temple that you was at. Then I went over on 48th Street. They have another temple in D.C., 48th Street. I was a member of that temple. And when I went over there, I had to go there and look at the chairman. Because the chairman over there was Brother Joseph Lynch-Bey. You know, when I gave him his nationality card back in the day, he wanted the ill. I went on and gave him a bay. I should have gave that brother that ill. Because I remember I was looking at a tape, and I seen him coming into one of the Sunday schools or something, and I heard Jones-Bey say, we got an elder coming in here. That was honor. That was giving him honor. And if he gave you that kind of honor, that meant that you could work with him. You could sit down and work with him. So we got to come under one head like the prophet left it. That's the only time that we be able to deal with this government. Everybody want to go to the European, but everybody said we need these many people. We need that many people. But what we need to do, we need to look at ourselves. We need to look into our inner heart and note its strength and worldliness. See, when you're talking about the heart, you're not talking about the heart that pump blood. Because you can have a what you call it? A bamboo. You can have a bamboo's heart here. Yeah, but when we begin to talk about the nearest place to meet Allah is in the heart, we're talking about the heart of your mind. See? The heart of your mind is where you do your thinking at. See? And the flesh don't think. The bones don't reason. He said, let that spirit, oh man, actuate and direct the flesh. So we got to become holy. We got to become sacred. We have to become intact. Now, you say that you Moorish American, but I see you on social media. You got a liquor in your hand. You got a cigarette in your hand. You know what you're doing, man? You disrespecting Noble Drew Ali and what he brought to us. Because Noble Drew Ali told us, he said in the book, he said, don't drink wine, no fiery drinks. So if you that weak that you got to drink, take it out the public eye. Because Drew Ali said that what you're doing is weakening our force. And when people leave, I wonder how they look at them. I wonder how the sheik look at them. Now, Brother Jones-Bey, I'm going to use him for example because he went through the chamber in 1984. And in 1984, he had a wish. His wish was to become the National Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America. He had a brother with him named Tyrone Gray-Eel. And Tyrone Gray-Eel, we was real close, but Brother Paul Eel said you might lose that brother relationship once you once he go through the chamber. So I wrote something down, and I gave it to Gray-Eel. And when Gray-Eel went through, he took it and put it on the Foster Eel's pillar in the hotel. And then Gray-Eel and I was all right. He gone now. That was a bad move that I made. Because he's no longer with the Moorish Science Temple. He's doing his own thing. But he's still my friend. He's still my friend. I was in town the other day. 3 or 4 brothers. Lynch-Bey, I need to see you. What you need to see me for? Every time I see you, you somewhere else. You with this grandbody. You with that grandbody. When Drew Ali tells us, I bought you everything that it takes to save a nation, take it to save yourself. And on the back of this, Drew Ali gave you authority. So what you doing jumping with somebody else if you got authority? Brother, what's his name? Braswell Bay. When I was in town, they had the authority day. I seen my man Graham Bay, and I seen Graham Bay's wife. And I made sure that his wife seen me because they came all the way to Portland to go over there and see them, bro. They wouldn't even come see me. And the reason why they didn't come see me because they know I was going to talk bad about that fat chump they had with them. Because I remember him and Sister Saunders Bay used to go to 957 East 75th Street, and it was a part of that temple. So what you need to do is go back to where you got your nationality card from. See, because those Moors over there, they suffering. They suffering from the physical realms of you and me coming around. So I don't have nothing to say to Jones Bay. I just honored because I'm from that geographical location. And in that geographical location, the street talks. We know in that small city what everybody's doing. And these brothers and sisters of Temple 71 is overcoming. It's growing. It's doing the prophet's work. It's living a moral and clean life. They doing good work at home because the prophet said, wives shall only know of good works, brother. And they are doing those things. So if that's the case, they're in unity with the law. What they need to get in unity with you, you was over there with them. Now you leave and go somewhere else, and now you want to sit down because you got a position now. You want to sit down. You know, we got a lot of work to do, especially here in Portland, Oregon. We got a lot of work to do about Prophet Noble Ali. But you know, he said, I've suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstanding of what the movement is dedicated to. So we all have a misunderstanding of what the movement was dedicated to. And really, I remember a time before I left Washington, D.C. There was Braswell Bay and Prayford here and a lot of other different leaders of other different temples. And I told the sheik, I said, we got them all right here now. The only way they come, and I had to look at that again. He right. He's the only way we come in unity. Canal Bay told me that. The only reason we come in unity, you have to come with us. And that makes sense. Because when Drew Ali left, it started then. One brother jumped up and told me, I'm back. Back from where? The prophet ain't never left. He told us that. He is spirit and a part of Allah. But when you begin to talk about I'm back, then that means you physical man. From that perspective. You know, you physical man because you think that there's something else that you need to tell the people that Drew Ali didn't say. But Drew Ali said, I bought you everything that it take to save a nation. Now take it and save yourself. Are we doing that? Are we taking these teachers and saving ourselves? No. Because we're doing everything that's opposed to what the prophets say. I'm looking at Million, Small Bay, Lover Bay, and Former Bay too. I don't see no Abdullahs. I don't see no Muhammads. I don't see no Hookabaka. I don't see none of that. Because Drew Ali told us something else. Because he said there's a reparation under this. You see what I mean? And you cannot get a reparation if your name ain't what it's supposed to be. Your name is Moorish America. Because that Bay is your Moorish, and that name that you got is your American. So when it's time for reparations, they look, they say, okay, you're Moorish America. Because these Europeans know who you are. You just don't know who you are. They know the character that you're supposed to, but that's why they claim to be Jesus. They claim to be Jesus. They claim to be Ruth. They claim to be Moses. But when you begin to talk about Ruth, Ruth was the Moabite. The book say the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. So grandson is King David. And grandson is Solomon. Now let's look at this flag again, because I'm going to give you some signs. In 1956, this is when this flag was given back to Morocco. Because before 1956, the flag that was flying in Morocco was a French flag. And Brother McQueen Hill was I was just teaching this lesson. And what took place for us, so the Christian Enterprise Bay and German Bay and them was supposed to have been opening up something in this government like whatever it was, but the time went on and it wasn't able to be in manifest. But it was the Moors of America. They went back to Morocco. Think about it. Because 1956 is the same year, too, that German Bay and Price Bay start going into those institutions, waking up the brothers and the sisters. Because the council said we're not going to take those teachers into the institution to those brothers. So when German Bay used to tell me about that, I see tears coming out of his eyes. I said, Mo, you told me spirit, man, don't cry. But he said, yeah, because Drew Ali ain't but one prophet. one temple, and one nation. And for me to leave the grand body and go somewhere else, you know, I'm really outside of the line of the prophet. But when you begin to think about Temple 71, G.S. Hatcher Bey, Wesley Walker Bey, and a lot of other brothers sat there, had a meeting in Lawton, and called for that grand body to come and give them some help. And they ordered some literature. They look and say, how many Qurans they want? They want 400. How many questionnaires? 400. And then they seen the signs. They said, well, the gold mine is. And then they came into the place. So when I first met the grand body, I was already grown. I already knew 10 words. I already knew 10 signs. I already knew how to eat and fast. See? But a lot of us need to understand that the grand body, a lot of people messed up about this. The grand body of C. Kirkland Bey is where you need to be. If I pass form today, don't say I didn't tell you that, because all these other dudes is tumors on the body of the state. I taught a lesson. Why was there separation? You talk about Kirkland Bey. They might have been eating pork chops. They might have been doing everything. But they held on to Allah's unchanging hand. Everybody else ran. Everybody else got scared. They went and done something else. So right now, Temple 2, our mission is just to take these lessons and learn about the prophet. We can't say that if you don't, not with this temple, you not with the prophet, because I was telling the brother that I got 3 or 4 different Qurans. Some of them big, some of them small, but when I look at all of them got the same teachings. All of them have the same lessons. So because I'm not over there with you, or you not over here with me, I can't say that you ain't living according to Drew Ali's law. The only way I can say you live in Drew Ali's law, if I look at you and you doing things that's diametrically opposed to what he say. The Europeans are happy. They're happy that we're in the position that we're in now. But this is to all of you who call yourself some kind of sheik or sheikas. If you went through under somebody else, you need to go back to where you was. If not, you got a chastisement coming from the great God Allah. And there's only a few people going to stand up and tell that truth. And like I say, right in different grand bodies, you got brothers and sisters that are not even loyal and faithful to you. Brother told me, I can reiterate it, Captain Bey, that's who said that. He said he was a grand body, they ain't the real one. I'm talking to him about what he said about washing the feet. He jumped over there, put him and that brother Hopkins Bey. Me and Hopkins Bey, I don't put Hopkins Bey in this. Let Hopkins Bey speak for himself. But you on their own post, and I messed up. I messed up because that's disrespect. That's disrespect for my homeboys, because that's where I'm from. So you know what, I'm just running my mouth today. I'm coming back. I'm honored. I was able to move with a couple of brothers. That brother McQueen Hill, I was honored to be in his presence, because the first time we seen each other since the 70s. And when we seen each other, that was before the grand body came into the institute, we was beefing. I mean, it was rough. I mean, unchef our swords and everything, because he was talking about Christina Price Bey, and we was talking about German Bey. But that building 957 is tore down. I had the opportunity to take that brother to 762 West Baltimore Street. We had a Morristown over there. We was doing so good. And that got to come back. So I'm always honored to be able to come before my Portland listening audience just to talk to you about the Spirit of God. Because it's not in flesh to think, it's not in bones to reason. So you got to live this. You can't look for nobody else to do it for you. You got to do it for yourself. So in conclusion, I would like to say we fly 2 flags. We just don't fly one. Flag of our origin and the flag of our birth. So it's always an honor to be able to come before our Portland listening audience to talk to you about the last prophet in Noble Drew Ali. We're having a Marcus Garvey celebration. Bruce Bouchard and Bishop Andrews will be on that curriculum. So we want you to come out on March the 17th, which is Marcus Garvey's birthday, at McDishman Community Center. So in conclusion, I'd like to recite the Moorish American prayer, the source from which we all draw our strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Drew Ali came for me. He had me on his mind. And I'm so glad he came for me. Whoa, I'm so glad he came for me. And I'm so glad he came for me. I'm so glad he came.